An early 90s slasher made for today. Grab your pump up sneakers, turn off Nickelodeon, and make sure you're feeling wicked smart because tonight we're talking 213 bones and movie reviews. Stay tuned. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. I appreciate you tuning in for another brand new review. Tonight, we are talking the last of the FrightFest 2025 submissions I got a chance to check out. In movie reviews, we are talking 213 bones. Now, again, if you want to check out some of the other FrightFest 2025 films I got a chance to catch, including Your Host and Pig Hill, you can head to my channel right now and check those reviews out. And of course, stick around to the end of the episode where I'm going to tell you about all the cool stuff we have coming up on the channel here over the next week. You do not want to miss that at all. Hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, no matter where you are watching or listening to this. But let's not waste any time. Let's jump right on into things here. If you have not seen the trailer for 213 Bones before, 213 Bones is about physical anthropology students at a college in 1993, Bristol Falls, Washington. They find themselves in deadly peril when a mass killer begins leaving real human bones and personal property around campus and hunting them down one by one. The students, their teacher Kelly, the local sheriff Bracco, and the coroner must work together to identify the killer before the body count rises. And there it is, folks. That is 213 bones. Now, compared to the other two entries I've had a chance to check out for Fright Fest, this film is definitely the most straightforward of these three thus far. It is a classic whodunit slasher that isn't particularly meta, and it doesn't really rely on any kind of late stage twist. And honestly, a film like that is a fairly easy win for me in most cases. I absolutely love the slasher genre. Y'all know Scream 2, Halloween 4, some of my absolute favorite films of all time. I love trying to figure out who's behind the mask, how do the clues actually lead up and match up to who's eventually going to be revealed as the killer or killers. And it's certainly unique when we get a slasher these days that isn't leaning into the meta-ness that we get in the grand majority of them that we're seeing these days. Sometimes it's nice just to kind of like go back and feel like the characters that we're watching here in these films. And as much as I love Scream and love Wes Craven's New Nightmare for what it has done to the slasher genre and made them infinitely more interesting after the mid 90s, at the same time, it's also effectively eliminated the kind of slasher to where we can't get by without that meta aspect to it. The characters always have to be smarter than the audience, always have to be smarter than the killer. Doesn't matter if they're the ones getting killed off or not, they have to have a level of intelligence that we typically just were not used to seeing in horror films. And I get it, it's hard to go back to those kind of films after so many of them are featuring it, even if it's not a slasher film. And that's why when we get films like this, you have to treasure them because we don't get that many these days. And good or bad, at least it's something different here. Now, 213 Bones certainly is interesting because it feels like it's supposed to be a parody at times as well too, in addition to that meta kind of feeling that it has. Now, this is nothing to the level of something like Scary Movie, but whether it be the characters are modeled after famous 90s actors, hello Good Will Hunting Matt Damon in this, to the point to where it's actually a bit in the movie, whether it's the grungy 90s alternative soundtrack or the character archetypes that are set up, I don't think anybody would be amiss to look at this film and see it as being at least a send up of the slashers we were watching back in the early to mid 90s. And even some of the later ones that we got that had a little bit of the meta aspect going for it, but it wasn't going full screen, like I Know What You Did Last Summer or Valentine. Those that fit in quite well with a film like this as well, too. The story itself is something that is definitely plucked out of the 90s. A group of anthropology students begin to discover real bones in their class assignment and start to think that one of their group is a killer going around trying to take them all out. That is the connection that brings them all together, whether it's the adults, whether it's the kids. that, hey, we're in school. This is not the way it's supposed to be. There is clearly a killer at work trying to kill us for some unknown reason here. And it follows the trend that a lot of these films do fairly well by having an opening set of kills and then allowing us to really get to know these characters a bit more before the carnage continues again. That allows for a lot more immersion and a lot more intelligent ways for us to really look at these characters, get to see what they're all about, and decide who we're actually liking and who we're actually hating here. And with that, I mean, again, like these group of characters fall in, like I said, to the typical archetypes that we would see back in the day. Again, we got a guy who looks like mid to late 90s Matt Damon, who's pining for the lead girl. That some of the girls here in this group are more concerned about which of the guy in their friend group is hotter versus getting their assignments done, or the friend that everybody hates in this group, who is the antisocial outcast, who's very clearly the red herring for all these killings that are going around. Like, if you name it, they're there. With the exception of us having a jock in this group, this would be the 80s and 90s collector's pack of characters that you would want. And something about that is very disarming. Something about that is very nice and comfortable, because again, then you're not worried about all the extra fluff that this slasher is going to add into it. You can settle into a lot of the things that we're used to in films like these. So it's a nice familiar feeling to get these kind of archetypes, even if in 2025 we should feel like we're long past that. Like, as weird as it sounds to say, this very much comes off as a period piece of sorts, honestly. And it's crazy to think that about films that are set in the 90s now, but this is a good way to really set that up. And that means a lot, because in the last few years, and I've talked about it recently, we've gotten a number of other horror films that have been decidedly set in like the early 2000s or in the 90s. And I've really felt that the ones that have been shooting for the 90s just have not nailed that in a really effective way. Like, it takes a little bit more than just the music in order to actually feel like we're living through that time. And that's one thing 213 Bones actually does really, really well here, is that even though it doesn't try to push the fact that we're set in 1993, you can still feel that and a lot of everything that's around all these various characters. So that's certainly a win here. Now, the chase scenes, these aren't all too exciting. The kill scenes at least manage to add some good color, and they keep the proceedings interesting. You know, I'm always game for a good slasher that has a pretty good chase scene in it, where somebody's hiding and eventually getting caught. That was a big staple for all the slashers we were really watching up until the mid 90s or so. So it feels a little weird that we don't get a chase scene like that in it, but that's one of the things that 213 Bones just doesn't really add to its repertoire. There's not really any effective chase scenes here in this film, and that is something that goes hand in hand with a good slasher. So that's not a good sign that we're losing one of those trademarks that you would expect every single time you're watching a slasher film, honestly. Unfortunately, the rest of the film just doesn't really have a lot going for it outside of the vibes. Like, again, if you want to live in that 90s time frame like I do quite a lot, then you're going to get a lot from that. And that's really good. That's nice to have that feeling that we're back in the 90s, whether it's the clothing, whether it's the talk, whether it's the music. Like, they do, again, so much here to make you feel like you're living in that time. But then that's it. That's all the film really has to offer in this case. The killer's motive is incredibly weak. None of the evidence that we get throughout the film allows the audience or the characters in the film to really figure out who's ultimately behind it. And, you know, talking about that particular aspect is something I've mentioned, like in my I Know What You Did Last Summer review, to where I was really hoping that in that new film, it would harken back to what the original one did, to where those kids had no connection at all to the killer, as they revealed Ben Willis at the end of the film. Like, yeah, they hit Ben Willis with their car, but again, outside of that one mistake, they had no connection to him at all. And that's kind of the case here as well with 213 Bones, but again, this would be decidedly different if these kids played an active role in any of the issues that this killer had. And they clearly didn't. So it's just, this person is crazy just because the script calls for them to be crazy. And that ends up hurting the entire film. No matter how good the kill scenes are in this, no matter how great the 90s vibes are with it, I like the mask. I like the attacks. Like there's stuff to enjoy in this for sure. But that weak ass motive and the fact that we don't get good clues to help us or the characters in the film out at all means that it's just not put together as well as it really should be. And you add on top of that the whole Matt Damon lookalike thing. Like, I'm not kidding, y'all. Like, again, if you watch this film, one of the lead characters is modeled entirely after the way that Matt Damon looked in Good Will Hunting, to the point to where the film actually says, you know what, it's not even a bit anymore, and has the dude do how do you like dim apples? Like, literally says the line in this case, and it's like, like, had you not done that, this would have just been something fun to point out and laugh about throughout the film. But the fact that we're directly calling it out is so cringe, and it doesn't work well at all for this film. And that is what could actually push it over into scary movie territory versus just seeming like it's a send up of old school slashers that we had. Lastly, you add in a very unnecessary mid-credit scene that teases a sequel, which is entirely unnecessary, and it makes it fairly obvious like who this killer would end up being based on the last few minutes of what was happening in the film. You put all these things together and it's just not really a good product here to watch. So 213 Bones is getting a 2.5 out of 5. Considering the other Fright Fest output that I've been taking a look at here over the last week or so, I would say it's not like marginally worse than those other ones that we've had a chance to talk about, but at the same time, it's definitely not doing much of anything better than these other two have been as well. That's just the way it is sometimes with horror films. I still had an absolute blast taking a look at these three films, and now that this review is out, you have a chance to go and check out the Fright Fest submissions in whole on my channel. So the best way to go check those out, as well as all the other content I have coming up for y'all, is to get subscribed to my link tree, which you can do by going to linktr.ee/T Scary Movie. If you get subscribed, that's going to be access to the YouTube page with video versions of the show, your favorite podcasting platforms, the audio-only versions of the show, my Letterboxd page for written reviews and movie rankings throughout the year, my TikTok page for short horror content including movie news, movie premieres, and movie reviews, my Twitch page for horror gaming, and my Fangoria shop page where you can enjoy a 20% discount off anything in the Fangoria shop. Take advantage of that, y'all. Hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button no matter where you are watching. Got a lot of great content coming up here over the next week, including reviews for Fright Night, episodes 7 and 8 of Dexter Resurrection. We are taking a look at episodes 2 and 3 of Alien Earth. We're going to talk the Toxic Avenger, both the original as well as the remake. We're going to be getting to Street Trash here very soon as well. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up, including another Tales from the Crypt double feature, which is going to hit September 3rd, the first Wednesday of the month, not to be missed, along with an interview with Keith Coogan. That's right, Keith Coogan from Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, Adventures in Babysitting, and one of my favorite Tales from the Crypt episodes, House of Horrors. You do not want to miss any of that, y'all. Hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button wherever you're watching. But that is it for me tonight, y'all. My name is T. We've been talking scary movies. Stay scared.